Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be making a semi-comprehensive analysis of Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, there's a lot to cover considering Red Dead Redemption 2 was one of, if not the largest release of 2018, and it has been a really hyped up release. It has been in development for 8 years, and people have been really looking up to it until its release in 2018. Now, there's a lot to cover because of this, so we're going to split this up into a few parts. We're going to do first the open world exploration and such things like that. We're going to do the combat, the gameplay and such, and we're going to do the story and maybe we'll touch down on the atmosphere and the music. Now let's start. When it comes to the world and the open world, I think they did an excellent job. Now, why this is because the world changes around you. Now, in other games, sure, the world changes around you, maybe sometimes, but only when you do something to change it, or a specific quest is passed or such. Like in New Vegas, the NCR Ranger veterans only start appearing when you do the specific quest where you either destroy or activate the bots under the fort. So, but in Red Dead Redemption 2, the world doesn't care about what you do. The world moves on with or without you. The houses are built, the ecosystem moves on, people move on. The world moves on. The world does shit, and it doesn't matter what you do to it. I think this is great because it gets you a sense that not many games give you, where you can feel like, oh, I'm actually not the center of the world. I don't control the world, and I'm not the world. Instead, there is a living, breathing world I am a part of. That I am living in. This is an excellent thing for a video game, and I just think way too little video games do this. Now, what I think about the world is I think they did an excellent job establishing the ecosystems, the for example, the south having alligators and such, and the north having snow foxes and such. The hunting system I think was done great. I think overall, when it comes to the world, that's definitely like an 8 out of 10 for me. It's done great, but there's still a few problems. I think is a bit too the world is a bit too easy to kill yourself in. Now, let me explain what I mean. I mean, you might say, oh, well, of course, it's Wild West and shit. But what I mean by that is the geography of the world is so weird. And it's very weird. It's similar to Red Dead Redemption 1. And they want you to follow specific paths and patterns. For example, like, there are those slopes. There are specific slopes where if you try to run up, even if they look like you can actually run up to them, your character falls and starts sliding, even if it looks completely easy to run across and looks physically possible to do so, because they don't want you going there, or they don't want you going a specific direction or such. And for this, you also can't discover all of the world. Like, you can discover parts of it, but from what I found in my comprehensive playthrough, my second one, where I tried to discover as much as I can in the world, is that they really don't let you go to specific places. Like, I tried everything I could, they would not let you go. And for explorers and people like me, like, who like to explore the game and such, this is a huge problem, because I'm here just exploring the world, trying to get the map to be not blurry and just get everything on the map. But walking to New Austin and such, but I can't because it blocks me. Which I think no world should do that, because because invisible walls and those kind of cheap mechanics where they make slopes or such and mountains that if you try to go up a slope then you just slide is it's just a cheap mechanic and a bad one. That's what I don't like about the world. But I think the ecosystem was done excellently. I think the wildlife, the plants, everything. I think they did well with it. The cities, the villages, those kinds of things. I think they did it great. The exploration in this game is fun, and another thing about Red Dead Redemption 2 is that unlike other games, it unlike other games, like for example Skyrim or things like that, there are other open world games. It doesn't have any sort of doesn't have any sort of it doesn't have any sort of fast travel mechanic. I mean, you can fast travel between cities using stagecoaches and trains, but it doesn't have a specific fast travel mechanic that that lets you travel to anywhere in the world just instantly. You can only move between specific cities you've been to, and even by lord, you can't get to Strawberry by train, for example. Now, this really adds an illusion that the world is much bigger. Now, the world of Red Dead Redemption is already really big, but it adds sort of illusion that it's even bigger because using your horse and your character isn't some speedy boy that can just sprint 60 kilometers per hour with no drawbacks like in Skyrim. Not in Skyrim, like in Oblivion, and still Skyrim, the normal run speed is like without sprinting is also pretty fast. So it's not like you can just run across the map really fast. And even using your horse, it takes time, especially with the and sometimes there are natural obstacles like mountains and such. And this is the same thing in Morrowind. I think it did a Morrowind. I think it did a Morrowind thing here, where Morrowind was 2 times smaller than Oblivion, but Oblivion overall felt like a much smaller world, while Morrowind felt like an enormous world because of the walk speed, the way the game and the speed, the atmosphere of the speed, like the whole speed of the game is made, and like your character and stuff. The Red Dead Redemption 2 did a similar thing, and I think this is good because you get a feeling you get a feeling like you're in the southern part of the United States, not just some random Vatican City type thing, which is really small. Like I think this is great. Pretty much an 8 out of 10 for the world. I don't like what they did with the borders and trying to limit us and things like that. That's the only reason it's an 8 out of 10 and not a 9 out of 10. Because even if it didn't have the borders, I still think it I still don't think it's really a perfect world. I don't think they perfectly made it because 9 out of 10 is already like phenomenal, but 10 is basically perfect, and I don't think it's perfect. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the combat slash gameplay. Now, what I think about the combat is I think it's really fun. It's like GTA. Well, it's not like GTA. What I'm saying it's fun like GTA. I find GTA combat fun, and you can just go around and shoot people if you want. But whatever. I think the combat in the main quest is the most fun and stuff. But I'm not gonna talk about the main quests yet. And the quest overall, like the missions, side missions, and such. But what I like about the combat is it sort of feels smooth, and I think it feels smooth overall. And the to be honest, the covering mechanics were a little bit shit and maybe outdated. But what I think they were trying to do is trying to make it feel like you had more freedom with it. Like Red Dead Redemption 1 felt very stiff, and it felt like you didn't have much freedom in it. Or Human Revolution, you don't have much freedom to move around. I think they really wanted you to feel that you had freedom with moving around your character and moving around overall. Like, you can move, so it's a little more realistic or something like that. I think that's what they try to do, but the some of the covering mechanics know to really fuck up because of that. Uh, like when the character stands right in front of a cover and then he just crouches in front of it. Like, I don't think that really makes much sense. But uh, to be honest, the thing where your hat gets thrown off was a pretty fun thing. It was a fun little mechanic. Nothing I would say that's phenomenal, but a fun mechanic and it had some realism to it. But depends. It does. The realism doesn't make a good game. It doesn't matter if it's realistic or not realistic. What we're here to talk about is the combat. Now, the combat, yeah, I think it's smooth. They want you to think you have some movement, but the problem is with their attempt at trying to be realistic, the combat can be really tedious, especially when you have to walk around in specific missions because it's sort of you have to press specific buttons and you have to press them at the same time, and it's it just it's just very weird when it comes to that. It's sort of I don't know how to say it. Slow, maybe. Maybe that's what I could say to describe it. Sort of, it's a very weird sort of feeling. It's not stiff like in the original Red Dead Redemption, but it feels slow and weird and uh just kind of slow, you could say, because especially because of that, and your character stops running for the stupidest of obstacles, which is dumb when you're in a train, and you're just gonna when you're in a train, it's guaranteed you'll stop. Robbing people is pretty fun, honestly, even though you get jack shit rewards. I think when it comes to the gameplay, they really needed to buff up the rewards, like when you rob people and when you rob stores. And they should have added up a thing where you could rob banks on your, because it the main quest really outshines the main quest really outshines the whole uh, open world when it comes to this, because what's the point of having like that open world, having those features and the and that exploration and encouraging that, and just making all that, if you're just gonna give main quests that completely overshadow it. Now you might say it's because of story reasons, but still, I don't know why a gun store or something would have $20 or $30. A gun store should have at least a couple $100, even in the what's it called, the golden standard times of the of where Red Dead Redemption 2 is set in, because it just feels like they just nerfed it a lot, and it doesn't give you motivation to do it, because if you really got a lot of money and you're an outlaw, you could really ask yourself, you know what? I need some money, and my camp needs money or something. Maybe I should go and rob these stores, or I should rob this bank, which should have been an option, and you should have gotten a lot of money for doing so if you did it. But and I should do that so I can get some money. I can fix up the camp and such. But no, they didn't include that. It's barely, so there's no reason to do it. There's no reason to do a low honor run, because the low honor run is just completely it's just completely broken. Uh, it's not broken. It's broken by the fact that the only reason you do it is if you just want to act like a fucking degenerate in the world. But when it comes to the camping thing, I think it was a fun mechanic, but but one thing I found pretty annoying was that the camp there was no reason why you would invest into it. Like, sure, you had some additional features that could be useful, like fast traveling to a specific town or location you've been to, from the camp. Uh, but the problem is that the camp itself is just kind of you don't need to pay for food and shit because no one seems to care for it. No one seems to care for it. Like I have a similar thing. The YouTuber Nakey Jakey said the similar thing, and I think there should have been something where to continue the main quest, you should have donated a specific amount of money, done like some things, or the camp should have been in a specific shape, or just be in a good shape before doing things. Or you couldn't do main quest because you'd have to help with the camp yourself. Uh, you can just ignore the camp completely. Um, I didn't like that, but hey, the camp added some useful features, but it was pretty useless overall. Uh, so that was kind of a bummer for me. Um, when it comes to the side, like the missions and side missions, these are the most fun parts of the game. Like the main missions are extremely fun. I love to do them. They're really fun and I like them. I think they're just done well because you have this perfect mix of story and gameplay, and some of them really last way too little. When it comes to the side missions, most of the side missions are just completely wacky and completely wacky and not serious. That depends if you like it or not. You may like it, you may not like it. But when it comes to the gameplay and such, there are some side missions that are really good when it comes to combat. Like the best of man and a woman, I think it's called. Uh, where you have to track down gunslingers and duel them. I think dueling was an okay mechanic in this game. It was decent, but I think they did what they could, but I think there was still room for improvement in there. I think Red Dead Redemption 1's dueling was more satisfying, but Red Dead Redemption 1 was just kind of broken. It was not only easy, but all you had to do was just kind of draw and then just tap the button you need to post those tabs on people, and just tap that button a shit ton of times and bam, he's dead. Instead of like shooting him one time in the head and just killing him. That's what I think about the dueling system, but there could have been there's room for improvement on it. Uh, but it's decent. When it comes to generally, I'd give the combat a 7 out of 10, a 6 to 7 out of 10, because I think it was decent. It was fun, but the combat it wasn't anything special. And besides, it was on console, so you just kind of had that thing like in Red Dead Redemption 1 where it just automatically uh, auto aims to the first guy that you see. That may be good or bad depending on you. But when it comes to general combat with or without auto aim, I'd give it a 7 out of 10 because it's just simply fun to play. It's fun to play though, and what I like about it is you can get killed any second. Like if someone lands a good shot on you, you're dead. If someone comes in and stabs you through the chest, you're dead. If someone hits you through the head, fucking headshot, dead. Like uh, they try to mix realism with fun. I think that they sacrificed a little bit of realism, but I don't care because the combat itself was pretty fun. When it comes to the main missions and side missions, I'd give them also around hmm an 8 to 9 out of 10, because let's do the main missions first. The main missions were all pretty good. I think there were some missions that could have done work, and some missions that were just in the main quest that were less than what I'd like, and just didn't meet my expectations. But it decent, just decent. Um, so I'd say I'd give it, considering that most of the main missions are good, really good. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. When it comes to side missions, it's an easy 8 out of 10 because side missions are the side missions were pretty fun, but that's what they sometimes they were fun, but they also knew to be tedious also. So let's not forget that. Very tedious actually. Some side missions, but I'm mostly counting the good ones, where you actually did things, and not the ones like where you had to go find dinosaur bones. Um, and now we can move on to the story. Now, the story was absolutely phenomenal. Excellent. Like, it was completely fucking excellent. I think the redemption arc for Arthur Morgan was just completely phenomenal, and I don't have words for it because let's it did something incredible. Look, Red Dead Redemption One's John Marston death was much more objectively tragic because John Marston had a family, he had people to care for, he had a new life, but but Arthur Morgan didn't have that. But most of us feel more sadness when we saw Arthur Morgan's death. Why? Because of his whole redemption. We felt him. We uh we heard his thoughts. We felt his feelings. We understood him. While John Marston was a complete blank slate in the original Red Dead Redemption. We didn't know nothing about him, and then he just came in and died. And while it was sad and objectively more tragic because of it, well, some people didn't feel as much sadness in it as in Red Dead Redemption 2 because Arthur Morgan was just an excellent protagonist. Even with the backstory to John Marston, uh, I still don't feel much sadness to it. Like I feel sadness, but not as much as Arthur Morgan because still we felt Arthur Morgan. We heard and felt everything from Arthur Morgan, and that's why we felt more sadness. We understood him and his redemption arc. His redemption arc was also fantastic. I think the way he went to save John Marston and try to get him out of that mess was excellent, and I think it was just a great thing overall. His whole redemption, like the whole redemption thing. In Red Dead Redemption 1, we barely even had redemption. All that was redemption was this guy trying to save his family that were being held hostage by the FBI because he had to hunt down his previous gang members. And we still don't feel redemption to that. We just feel like we're saving our family. Uh, at least not much. While in Red Dead Redemption 2, we feel like we instantly feel from the chapter 1 to chapter 6, you can really feel that change, and you can really see Arthur Morgan change as a person. And then his death is very tragic because of it. Now, when it comes to the main story, it was mostly about Arthur Morgan and his redemption arc, but it was also about betrayal and about complete and utter madness. Dutch van der Linde started off as this idealistic, funny, like is some sort of funny uncle type guy, and he was very idealistic and just felt like a good person overall who tried to make he tried to get he actually really tried to get everyone uh to safety, get them a new life, get them what they wanted. but he just went completely mad, just went mad, which is really sad because of that. And at the end of the game, he realizes what he did when betraying Arthur Morgan, but he still doesn't he still doesn't sink out of his madness. He sinks deeper into madness, and the philosophy and not the philosophy, the psychology and like psychology and all that related to the guy could take me hours explaining it. So I'm not gonna go deep into all that, like his depression and stuff like that, and that sort of that those sort of things. But the characters overall were done excellently. I think everyone, Hosea was more like the wise, really nice grandpa type character, especially to Jack. He was a real like grandpa figure to Jack, and really felt like it. And he taught him a lot of things, like to read and such things. And uh, you could see around the camp, like when he has interactions with them, it really buffs up the interaction and such, and really you feel warmth in it. It just feels nice. When it comes to other characters, like I think I from when I first played Red Dead Redemption 2, I never played Red Dead Redemption 1, but I saw a lot of things from it, and I immediately knew that if they were going to want to make it like true to the original game, they'd have to kill off a lot of characters, and that's what they did. They killed off a lot of characters, and Sean's death was shocking to me. Like, I remember first time was like, whoa, 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 like, I was just, wow, what the fuck just happened? Is he dead? Like, and Arthur Morgan and everyone else felt the same, but it really also forces the feeling that, that's how people die in this sort of business, and that's how people are gonna die. And eventually all kinds of deaths happened. Kieran's death was brutal, and Kieran was a really sad character because you know he- because he was tortured by the O'Driscolls, and then like the O'Driscolls really were not nice to him. Then you had the Vanderlyn gang trying to basically castrate him or something. Then they all made him sleep with one eye open because he thought they would kill him, and then eventually he just got brutally killed. It was really sad because I just can't explain. It was a sad death, honestly, because of the reason. But when it comes to uh the other characters also feel the change in the gang when the gang is falling apart. Some characters leave. Karen completely falls into the bottle, like they say. She just becomes an alcoholic to forget her troubles. Every character has their own deep psychology, and I think and every character changes how the same way the events change the same way the events change, and the things that happen that really change them. It's really you really in this game, unlike others, like you really feel how the events of the game impact every character in the game and everyone in the game. You feel it, and it just and the ending was really sad, like the ending from Arthur Morgan. But the ending for John Marston was pretty much not the ending that he did not let go. He did not let go of the revenge. He did not let go of trying to get revenge for Arthur Morgan. And because Arthur Morgan told him to just get lost, just don't look back. But he looked back, and you saw what happened. Mike, they found Micah. They asked some. They got some leads, and then they used John Marston as they used John Marston as their attack dog, so they can deal with his previous gang members, which have become brutal outlaws and bandits because they can't deal with it themselves, and then they kill him at the end, despite being a supposedly redeemed man. It was so, and they really set up the whole story for Red Dead Redemption One. That's what I think is really good about Red Dead Redemption Two. They set it up really damn good. What I have to say about the story is an obvious 10 out of 10. I can't even think of something bad to say about it. It's just so damn good. Um, sure, there are probably some holes or something. Of course, there's holes because in Red Dead Redemption 1 they don't mention Arthur Morgan, even though being a major character, but whatever. Even the strange man says he's John Marston has forgotten far more important people than the strange man. But obvious 10 out of 10. Now about the atmosphere. Now what I mean the atmosphere is how they set up the Wild West mood, how they set up the music and everything. When it comes to the music, I think they did a phenomenal job with it. Ivan Pavlovich was just an excellent. Ivan Pavlovich made an excellent soundtrack, and I really think it was. I think personally that it was an excellent soundtrack, and I and it was just pleasing to the ear. It was very atmospheric, and in all the situations where it should have been, it was very it really completed every situation. Every situation, the music added on to that situation. So I think the music was just great, and they really using the music, they were able to really uh, the whole game, and every main quest and every situation. They were just able to power it up, make it feel more impactful and stressful, or whatever they wanted to make it feel like. Now, when it comes to the atmosphere in general, I think it was done great to get the Wild West mood. Because besides, in this year, not this year, like the 1899, the year where Red Dead 2 takes place, and 1907, after after the first six chapters during the epilogue, I think it showed that the Wild West still remained. There were a lot of things close to it, but you could see that the Wild West was falling apart. Like with Arthur Morgan always saying, we're thieves in a world that don't want us no more," and things like that. Because yeah, the world is changing rapidly, and it changed rapidly. So with all of that, basically it's a smart idea why the whole thing isn't it's a smart idea why the whole thing isn't just some Wild West duels shit and no laws place. Because yes, of course, you find a lot of encounters where the people try to rob you or something. But you also find a lot of encounters where the prisoners are being hauled off and such. With and honestly, it just gives you the feel of the Wild West. It just the Wild West turning into a civilized place. Except when you get to New Lost in the epilogue, which I personally think should have been available in the regular game as well. I do not know why what's his name, Arthur Morgan couldn't get to New Austin. Why they didn't allow him? Like, fine, okay, you can't go to Blackwater. I get that for story reasons, but New Austin? Why New Austin? Why can't you get to New Austin? You don't let you get to New Austin. That's kind of dumb. But whatever. Uh, Now going back to uh, going, I think going back to this general atmosphere thing. They did it great. Gave you a feel of the Wild West just falling apart, being not falling apart, but just changing into a civilized place, and with all the cities and such. Uh, and in Red Dead Redemption One, they give you even the New Austin feel even more civilized. So basically, everything is becoming much more civilized, and you can feel that now. So I think the atmosphere, while it was done good, had some flaws. Like, the problem with the atmosphere is it doesn't enforce this thing well enough. They still make way too many robbery things, and considering that the place where Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place is supposedly much more civilized because there's towns like Strawberry, like Valentine and Saint Denis, which is like a very big city. I think that should have been toned down. I think they try to mix the Wild West thing in way too much with the thing. I think they should have chose one thing to emphasize more, or trying to keep it at a neutral balance. In the whole story, they just feel like it's both bars, like both the Wild West and the Wild West turning civilized atmospheres are going up and down, up and down. So it's kind of they kind of don't give you a correct atmosphere fully. When it comes to the music, I don't think I'm in a position to rate music, but I personally rate it a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's definitely really good. Like really, really, really good. It fills up every atmosphere. It's done well. It has a lot of. It's composed well, and things like that. Um, and the atmosphere itself, I think the number that keeps popping into my head is around 7 out of 10, or 8 out of 10. I'd give it an 8 out of 10 because eight out of 10 is more. It feels better for the it just the atmosphere deserves it anyway. So that was pretty much my semi-comprehensive analysis of Red Dead Redemption 2. I talked about general things, but tried to touch down on many things at the same time, as many things as I could. And personally, I really enjoyed this game, and honestly, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It's not, again, I say it's not perfect, but but it's definitely amazing. And I don't, and trust me when I say, when I give something a 9 out of 10 or anything bigger than I don't know, a 6 or 7, that means it's got to be really damn good. So yeah, that is my semi-comprehensive analysis of Red Dead Redemption 2. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.